Hi, Paul Slack. It's Good News Planet. I'm speaking to John Cheney Leopold. Hi, John. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing?
Okay, good. I'm wondering if this conversation is being recorded by somebody so they can then tell us whatever we said, and then they can mark it to us and on whatever we talked about, and then we can both go to sleep. So and say, well, you guys do whatever you want. So actually, John wrote a book. He's called "We Are Data." So we're not human anymore. We're just data. Algorithms and the making of our digital selves. Okay, so this is very interesting information in the days that we're living in with the internet and so much more. So you're a professor over at the University of Michigan and teaching American culture and digital studies. And this very fascinating, important book because we need to know who knows what about us, and what they know, is it actually accurate? Because actually people make decisions based upon this new technology. Well, Google him. You'll learn everything about him. Don't talk to him because that would be ridiculous. Just Google him. All right, why are you doing what you're doing?
I started this project when I just was made aware of how much information about ourselves was being collected. Normally I thought, okay, when you search for a term on Google, they save that and they try to make their search engine better. But it turns out that they don't just take that term, they take the time the term was done or searched for, what kind of device it was, how big your screen was when you searched for it, what kind of operating system you're using, what other computers were around you when you search for that term. And so it has this extraordinary, trove of data now that then has no real use by itself, but when you pattern analyze it, when you collect it across different platforms and you run algorithms through it to try to see, what it means, you could have extraordinarily important as well as efficacious inferences from it.
Let me ask you a question. Did they ask for our permission? Who asked for permission, and did I give away my permission when I went on to Google? How does this work? And I know the European Union, you state, seems to be a little more concerning than here in America. So about data. So how does this whole scenario begin? You get a computer. And does it come with bugs, and does it come with people able easily to understand what your life's all about?
So interestingly enough, as just a side note, there was one company, Lenovo, who had installed on any new computer, there was a data tracking program that was running underneath that you didn't know about, that was sending all of your information to the company so they could sell you a cheaper computer and then sell the data to make up the loss. But normally with a regular computer that you just buy from the store, you plug into to the internet or you go online, that every time you access the site, you are more or less acceding to what they call the terms of service of that site. And they're very famous for being very long and full of legalese, but what they really do is say that you give the firm or the site complete access to every piece of information that they might have when you use that site. So Facebook, in order to start a Facebook account, you have to accede to the terms of service, which also says that Facebook then owns your photos and they could use their photos for marketing, or they can just, maybe make a museum out of your photos, who knows. When you use Google, comparable to that, when you sign up for a Google account, or even when you go to the site, by just doing that, you are acceding to their terms. More, I think, compelling, though, is the recent privacy bill that was signed in the early parts of this month, which was a battle not necessarily over surveillance, but over this exact question. Like, do you opt into a company like Verizon having access to all of your data, that when you search for everything, every piece of data is saved into their database? And so before, the Obama administration had, through their FCC, had said, you need to have to opt in, because you have to voluntarily say, I want Verizon to do this to me. The rollback was a rollback of that rule, so now Verizon doesn't have to tell you anything. When you sign up for the service, it doesn't need to really even be explicit.
Oh, boy. So now, here it seems like if you have somebody write something about you, and it goes onto the Google search engine, right?
Yeah.
To get that off, you have to hire 400 lawyers and have to figure out how to talk to all the machines, because there's very few people that work at Google
Exactly.
that you can ever get to talk to. So what's the arrangement there? I mean, someone can actually slander you.
Yeah, so that's the thing that happens a lot with with companies that there's a politician, Rick Santorum, who had a very let's just say a sexually vulgar thing affiliated with his name. It was the first result that showed up on Google, and he was very unhappy about it. He's tried to sue Google to have them take it down, but Google is very much, they fetishize their algorithm. They say that the algorithm, not people, should determine what's important. And so, the European Union has a different approach. They said that people in Europe have what they call the right to be forgotten, which means you can petition Google to say, I don't like this piece of information about me on the internet. Could you take it off of your list, off of the web page that when you search for something, the results? That doesn't mean that it's gone from the internet. It just means that there's no access point from Google to get to that site.
Okay, and they have passed that, and Google has had to agree to that, and that's the way it is there?
Yeah, they fought with their 400 lawyers against that decision, but in 2014 it went through the European Union courts and became European Union law. They've tried it in different instances in the U.S., but U.S. privacy laws are not as strict in the way that we understand information as the Europeans. And so we're just kind of, have to just suck it up, I guess.
Aha. So now, spoken like a true professor. So, well, we got to relate to everybody around us, and when we're in school, this is what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be learning, right? We're supposed to learn what's really happening around us, so we can make changes and help the world grow, or accept what is, I guess you could say. So you have some case studies here, living examples ranging from Angry Birds to OK Cupid and Verna Project, so on, Chicago Police Department. So we are data. So how do those organizations use data to help them? OK Cupid's a dating site. How do they use data?
Actually, let me just. I think there's a more compelling example in Orbitz, the web page for buying travel tickets. In 2014, they figured out that they could get a little bit more money from people if they had a Mac computer. So that what they did is differential pricing that says if you have a Mac computer, we're going to show you higher prices for a plane ticket than if you don't have a Mac computer. And that, for me, is kind of the cornerstone to why privacy matters, as well as a lot of this idea of being made of data matters, because much like in the lemon used car market where the car seller knows that there's a problem with the carburetor, but the person buying it doesn't until they drive off the lot, often we don't know in terms of commerce or in terms of, in the economic sphere, but also in the political sphere, how the world is looking different to us precisely because companies know about us enough to make us pay $50 higher on a plane ticket, or in the case of the NSA, that the NSA actually has an algorithm because there's no ability to know really who is a foreigner or who is a citizen online because it's just an IP address. It could be anybody using the computer. That they created an algorithm to determine if somebody was 51% foreigner based on what kind of things that they were doing, what languages they spoke, where their IP address was pulling from, and then if they were 51% confident and believed to be a foreigner, the NSA could surveil them. So for me, it's really a big thing about who we are doesn't really matter to these companies or these agencies. It's what our data can be made to speak or for us.
Okay. Well, a very concerning situation in my mind because I'm from the old school. I've been in the business a long time, 40 years. I'm going to call it the communications business. I also had an ad agency marketing company, so you try to market to people. But I'm a little concerned. Well, I've always been concerned with paparazzi. I don't think anybody has the right to photograph somebody and actually broadcast it. But that's very old school, it seems, in public. But now, people are really just, and everybody's got a camera in their phone even, and I see one of the recommendations. It's a great book, very important to understand what we're talking about here, everyone. You got the head of the film department in Brooklyn College, so you have some important people here talking about the Googleization and everything, and speaking highly about your book. You've done a lot of homework here. So So what are some of today's New York Times, for example? So here's another add-on here. Uber tallies the cost of its leaders drive to win at any price, where they've done something, it seems to me, on top of iPhones. And so does the techies, is this the techies world? They could figure out, they make good bank robbers, I imagine. But they can figure out a lot of things on top of this techie thing, right?
They can. And there's this very funny, I guess it's a meme that's been going around, that a lot of Silicon Valley people call, what they do disruption or innovation, but a lot of people who aren't in that business just call it flouting regulation. So that story you were saying about Uber is, for me, remarkable, because Uber's had a bunch of issues with algorithms and with privacy, but even if you tried to delete the app, they found a way to create code that keeps your location being sent to the Uber central servers. And so just the kind of the genius of computer scientists is not necessarily doing good for privacy or doing good for democracy, but often it's flouting regulation, or it's trying to make it so that we don't know what's really happening underneath the digital hood. And they like it like that, because then we can't critique or we can't question if we're really getting the truth or if we're getting the same thing that everybody else is getting. It's
like subliminal advertising, and it's very concerning, because we're talking about say a ride on a car that's on top of your phone. The phone is the big one, I think, almost right now, right? Because most people in the world have phones more than a computer, right? And so the more that they can get into and do things with the data from your phone, from your lifestyle, your Google location and stuff like that, I guess what we should be informed, right?
Yeah. And it's an $83 billion industry and growing. So some of us, we just kind of see it as an advertisement, but there's, hundreds of thousands of, different people working on this stuff, that even just for the idea of democracy, I'm a big proponent of thinking about surveillance is important, not just to have privacy in private, but to be a person who doesn't have to think about what did I Google last night, and is that going to shut down if I'm in a protest, or is this going to shut down if I voice an idea? Because for me, free speech is important, not just to be an individual, but to actually have a vibrant democratic discourse.
Well, is it or isn't it? The question here, and you bring up you brought up the celebrity thing, and how Google decides whether you're a celebrity or not a celebrity, or whether they should even follow you. This book has a lot of information, everyone out there, to really start to have a different look at the way you're using technology. I always personally, since I'm old school television, always thought that we should have a Surgeon General's warning on television. This is the opinion of the management of this media company. Even when we talked about Archie Bunker, Carol O'Connor, this was the opinion. They allowed that TV show. This is the opinion of Norman Lear, the producer, and this is we don't understand media. I think I don't think we were taught media. Thank God you got a course out there in the University of Michigan, but in essence, we just kind of want to get through the day, right?
Yeah,
that things are happening to us.
But there's all these studies that show increased use of Facebook causes depression. The really kind of long-term effects that I think, we definitely need to study, and we definitely also need to teach.
Yes, I agree. You have a lot of more technical data information. We are data. We talk about algorithms and things like this in the book. Actually, I like what you're doing. I think it's very, very important, and actually, I think it's to the point of health of the society to understand it, because more and more ad agencies, movies, anybody doing marketing is considering utilizing these data, right? Would you say that? Is that kind of accurate?
Yeah. That is really the way to go, as you said about phones, that this is the way that you're not going to connect to people through their television anymore. It's going to be the phone personalized to the, millimeter of where you are. How is that going to affect what you see, what kind of news you get, even, what kind of people you encounter in the world? So you as as quite knowledgeable about the potential of this, let me ask you, it's okay, what do you think we should do? Well, there's two things. There's two things. And I often when I talk about this with friends, they're like, "You're such a downer," and I want to be an upper. So one is that we could actually do good with it, and so I'm very fascinated by a lot of the biomedical possibilities of if all of our data is being sent to some central server, some kind of like cloud, that you could run pattern analysis to figure out how to save people's lives better, what kind of diseases might have correlations that we didn't understand, and we can find it if we take a very long, view perspective. But other than that, just because digital technology is so ingrained in our daily life, it's really hard to say I'm not going to use it. And even if you don't use it, you still have the ability to be brought into the fold through a bunch of different, strategies. So I'm actually at my friend's office in NYU right now because I'm visiting, and a friend, his name's Finn Brunton and Helen Nissenbaum, they both wrote a book called Obfuscation, and this book is also very, very good. But what it says is, like, if we can't avoid surveillance, if we can't avoid our data being used, what we can do is we can just produce a lot of random data. So I go to, a website, but I'm also going to 6 other random websites at the same time, so that an algorithm can't really figure out who the real me is versus who the chaos random me is. And so it produces a sense of freedom through chaos and noise and randomness.
Okay, so that's a job of some sort to know about that. I personally live a life that I don't care what they know, and I don't care what anybody knows, anytime, everywhere. And I'm going to live my life in that manner. They can know whatever they want because I'm not doing anything wrong. And as a result of that, what can they know about me that, like, my own family doesn't know? What could they know? And so I don't know. I'm going to try to just plain avoid it. I'm going to use the technology, and I'm just going straight ahead, positive life.
I really respect that. I do want to say there's a study that came up that said, it's called the spiral of silence on Facebook. They said that even people who supported the Iraq War, they were less likely to voice their own opinions about the Iraq War if there was surveillance. And so for me, if you're good with it and you can be as expressive as you and confident as you are, that's perfect. But I know a lot of other people that if they feel they're being watched, they're actually less likely to be deliberatively public.
I agree with that. I mean, there's no doubt about it. That you have fear in you, and when you have fear,
exactly.
and it is very difficult. So, it's a damager. I think it's actually a killer of a sorts. By far, when you're living in fear, because you're clogging up your arteries. I did the brain series. You're putting adrenaline into your mind. Fear is adrenaline, and that goes into your body. So I don't know. Just go for it. Let me ask you too. This is good stuff, John. You really got an important work here, and you're helping us all understand this better. Let me ask you 2 last questions at this moment, and I really enjoyed speaking with you. What's good news for you?
Good news for me is that's a really good question. Good news for me is my friends telling me that they're happy.
That's a good one. That's a great one. And we're really involved with world peace. Okay, so that's a good part of the reason why I wanted to make sure I could talk to you, because I want you to figure out how I can get to all the peaceniks, 8 billion of them, in their own way, using technology, and then have them say on September 21st they're going to take a moment of silence at 12 noon for world peace, because that's what people are doing, and how they're trying to then go and find people that are peaceniks, okay, and are just leaving each other alone. But no, what does peace mean to you? I ask many people, what does peace mean to them? So, John, what does peace mean to you?
Peace means to me, that's such a good question. Peace means to me both the absence of war as well as the fairness and nutrients of a society.
Mm-hmm. Well stated. Well stated. Orange questions.
I hope that was all right.
It's fantastic. It's how you felt on the spur of the moment.
Very true.
Well, you have a website for your book? And for you?
Yes, it's going to be wearedatabook.com, but you can also just Google me.
We Are Data. I'm not going to Google you. Are you kidding me? I'm just fooling with it. We Are Data Books. Is it okay? And the website's friendly. And do I have to sign in to get into your website?
No. I'm just going to set it up. So it's just going to go immediately to the NYU Press page. It's going to be no bells and whistles.
I was always embarrassed, even on my own website, to put that thing that, at the beginning, to enter this website, you must sign in, because I thought that was an invasion of privacy. But it's just the way it is, right?
That's how they're doing it now, yeah. They have to make money somehow.
There you go. Well, we're going to both be optimistic that all this is for a better reason, and it's all going to help, I guess.
I hope so, too.
Used properly. All right, John, thank you. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about the book that I should tell people?
No, Paul, this was really fun, and I really appreciate the questions.
Okay, very good. All right, John, take care. Thank you very much for sharing good news with us.
Thank you very much, too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.